What's up, everybody?
What to do, everyone?
Welcome back. Final Panic Creators Commentary.
Right here, you clicked on the correct video, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, you did. You're about to experience our favorite episodes and some of the best BTS stories that we have to tell, and just a final wrap-up of this show that we created.
Yep, we're going to take you on a wild journey.
We had the plan to shoot him like on a couch or something, but we couldn't find a good spot, so then we just kind of decided, would Daniel have a couch?
No, let's just have a barren apartment.
What genre is Don't Look Away?
Who is that?
What's she holding up?
Well, there's
two Easter eggs.
I love how like the book cover isn't in the book. The book cover's separate, and you can see it if you look.
That's how you know it's a really
But
janky
I think
book.
we couldn't put it in, and we were like, all right, just hold it really tightly, and no one will notice. Post in the comments if you noticed.
After a boring summer of endless job applying and tedious book organizing.
So I edited this montage, and this was sort of a last-minute addition.
Yeah.
We were originally going to start the episode with a montage, but episode 8 began with a montage, but then we felt the need to have another montage to just kind of establish Sam's decreasing mental state. And then I just remember I went through so many drafts of this, and I hated it, and I was miserable, and it was like the last thing we edited for the episode, and finally, somehow I just came up with the idea of like, energize.
Job interview was the most important moment of my energize.
I should call Mr. Mandel.
I needed to get nicer clothes. Energize.
Like, that just made me laugh, the idea of like, he interrupts himself because he's like, gotta get energy, energize. And I remember when I edited it and sent it to you, you had no clue what you were about to watch.
I didn't know what was going to happen.
And you were
I was
laughing.
just losing it. It was so funny. And we used... all of these shots are pretty much just shots we never used in previous episodes.
In episode 8.
We had a whole thing planned with this where we wanted to shoot in like trafficy downtown LA.
It didn't work
And
out.
we were just like, how are we going to do that? So we shot on a...
We're literally in a neighborhood right next to a parked car.
Yeah, we're on a residential street just next to a bunch of parked cars and using stock footage.
There you are. Come on in.
And we got Sam and Graffia in here.
Sam and Graffia. So Sam and Graffia, I wanted to use for a previous short film. He was too busy, but he's a fantastic actor. I saw him in Barry. Love Barry. He was great in it. We reached out to him for this. He was super down. He basically wanted to produce future Panic, like when it gets picked up. So he is the one who hooked us up with his manager, who is now our manager, who was able to get us in the Deadline article, and he's helping Panic get picked up right now.
He's the man that really began all of that. Sam
and Graffia is who you should be thinking.
I'm screwed. I've already failed this interview.
We never really light scenes edgy.
Yeah.
We wanted to light this like with really like hard lighting, sort of like a noir.
I wanted it originally to be in like an actual obvious office with like sunlight and stuff, because that's sort of how it's usually like. But we couldn't get that, and so we were like, let's just go for a more dramatic, like darker
sort of stylized
meeting room.
And just escape into them. That's just always been my favorite part.
But this isn't storytelling. This is content writing.
This was very tough to find music for, because every time you were on a roll, the music would start to go, and then every time Sam would shut you down, it would just end.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, yeah, definitely. But I actually think that you can tell a story with anything. Take a movie review, for example.
And the music really helps a lot.
Yeah.
You really curse yourself when you're like, I want Panic to be bongos.
Yeah.
Every time it's like, oh, we need to find more bongos that sounds different and not just like islandy or intense action-y drums.
Yeah.
So I was able to diffuse the situation. I pulled my girlfriend aside. I was able to calm her down. And I told my new friend that it might be best that we don't talk to each other for a while, because
we always wanted things to ebb and flow, where it's like Sam is starting to succeed a bit and you kind of think he's going to get out of it, and then all of a sudden there's another curveball. And I think with the curveballs, we want Sam to always just like, even though maybe he on paper succeeds, for example, like actually getting to the interview despite being late, or also sort of nailing this question even though he lies the whole time, there's always that caveat, and in the end it's just pushing him deeper and deeper down this anxiety depression hole where he has to remember the past, and it's like it's just catching up to him. All this is compounding on him,
and all I had to do was lie through everything.
Jaws.
The little Jaws.
Yeah, like the
What?
Keaton dropped out.
I like that shot.
Yeah,
that
cool.
shot's cool
Follows him up.
Yeah, because at first she's low, or it's a low angle, so she's in charge, and then when he stands up, it goes where now he's in charge because the camera's higher than her.
And now it's handheld a bit, so
Yeah,
it's
like
like,
that.
oh, things are getting aggressive. That was a fun scene for me because I finally got to like not just be a cuck. Like I got to be a little more aggressive.
Please leave me the hell alone.
Text reads, sorry, but
That's one of my favorite low-key jokes where he goes on this huge rant and then it cuts to Siri going, text reads, why don't you like it's like she's just reading it back. Like that's like funny to me.
I wanted to call him. I wanted to apologize.
That shot.
That pause. That was one. Everything here.
That shot
such
was
a challenge.
so difficult. Basically,
Such a challenge.
I had to After Effects that shot.
You were driving that car.
You were in this car.
Yeah. So the whole point was that we wanted to look like that car got literally right on top of my car.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that without risking crashing is to just begin our shots where our cars are practically touching and just do it in reverse where we both back up.
We tried to film it with that where Chris's car stopped and my car stopped, but we would always see like Chris's car's acceleration in reverse. So he basically had to start like 20 feet in front of me.
Yeah.
I had to hope he could reverse in a straight line and not hit my car.
Yep.
And then when he got to a certain point, I just had to wing it and think it looked good and then just back up really, really fast.
Yep. And then other weird thing for me was, even though I'm backing up, I couldn't be looking in the rearview mirror because that's not what Sam would be doing. So I had to just be bored and looking like this while backing up and praying to God I don't hit Keaton or anyone else that could be walking behind the car because I can't look in the rearview mirror. It'll show up on camera. I'm looking there. So I'm just guessing and just going. So that was a shot we weren't sure how it was going to happen. Then this entire shot was another thing that we weren't sure how it was going to happen, and the way that we shot this is I just held myself to the roof of the car and we flipped the camera upside down to make it look like the car flipped over and I'm laying there. And then we did blood effects and taped fake glass to my face.
Because and you can sort of see the Scotch tape on it, but you can't really like notice.
Yeah, so that's because the glass would, it's falling because I'm like this technically. So instead it sticks to my face so it looks like I'm lying down. Yeah. All these little tricks. It was funny. We wanted the peas were a thing that were never meant to be this big deal, but ended up just being a recurring theme where by this point, Sam doesn't say a word and he just eats it. He just moves on. It's just another little thing of like showing his growth as a character.
I love how he is a bib.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, I got that vibe from her. That kind of slutty vibe.
Can you help me with this?
I forgot about that. I'm having a good time because I haven't seen either of these episodes in a while.
Oh yeah, it's been forever.
So I'm just enjoying rewatching.
What's your name again?
Daniel.
I love seeing characters who don't interact. Or it's like, yo, we like the mom, she's funny and wacky. We love Daniel, he's funny and wacky. We've never seen them interact. Let's put them in a scene together and see what happens. This kind of, I think, reaffirms to Sam where it's like, Sam is sort of like, I have a friend. I'm not super lonely.
Yeah.
I have succeeded on that front as well, and he's a good friend.
Yeah.
This was the first thing we shot.
Whenever it's the characters are walking and the camera's with them, that is so difficult. Because that angle that we were at, we had to walk in a certain way. We're always kind of next to each other. I'm not getting too far in front of him. He's not getting too far ahead or whatever.
The camera can't be too shaky.
Yeah, like,
it's got to stay in focus.
This was difficult.
This was the part we wanted Daniel to get deep with this part.
We wanted Daniel to get... And Ben nailed this because he found a way to get deep with the Daniel character in a way that was believable. Because usually it's when those comedic characters get deep is when the audience really pays attention, because that means like, oh, this is actually a big deal.
Yeah, she has schizophrenia.
The schizophrenia thing was another thing that also was kind of a surprise of how it came back. Because that was not planned originally. Because in episode 4, he said he does this presentation on schizophrenia. The only reason that came back originally was I was trying to think, what would his mom have? And somehow my brain popped up. Because when I'm writing dialogue, I kind of imagine how they'll say it. And I know how Ben talks. And I just remembered schizophrenia. And I was like, that's kind of funny that he says it that way, because that's not really how you say it. And I was like, okay, wait, why do I know that? And then I went back to episode 4 and I was like, that's what the presentation was on. It's schizophrenia. That's it. Boom. Done.
We wanted Chris to cry a little bit there. And you were still sort of learning how to cry on cue, and you didn't know how you were going to. And then we finished it, and it was like, yo, Chris, you cried on cue. And it was like, no, it was so sunny, and the sun was in my eye, and I just had to have my eyes open the whole time that I just started crying.
And again, back to that whole thing of like this ebb and flow where you're hoping Sam will finally wake up and just like make the right decision. And here's his big chance right here to do it. You know, after all this time, it's like it makes sense that he would do it, but then he doesn't. And that's something that we really wanted to push with this series. It's like, I feel like characters get off too easy in shows, especially kind of like cute or simpler shows like this. You know, oh, college kid that has anxiety. You know, things are going to be difficult for him, but he'll get past it. And it's like, no, I really want to push Sam to like extreme territories.
I wanted every audience member to be like,
yeah,
come on, do it. Come on,
do
it. Come on, do it. And then when he says no, it's just like, oh, man.
Come on, which that's real life. It takes so much for people to really make that decision. And the other thing is, most of the time, that person will only make the decision on their own.
We wanted him to make the decision not too long after that scene, because I always get pissed off in shows where it's just dragged on for too long.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, he said no, he's getting pushed, and then a couple minutes after that, then he says yes.
Yeah. Fun fact, we shot this way before we shot the rest of the episode. This was during episode 8. And then finally this comes back when the audience hopefully sort of forgot about the voicemail. Everything about this scene is wacky because when we originally shot the scene, what she said was very different from what ended up being in the final product. I'm trying to remember. I think the original voicemail was Lily sort of just like blames herself and she's all messed up now and she doesn't know what she's doing. And so the Sam's just like, man, I gotta fix my life. But then we changed it to she has successfully moved on and she harbors no ill will. And that's something that Sam always assumed, is that she hated him. That's a burned bridge forever. It is nothing but this negative memory that's going to curse him forever. But when he listens to his voicemail, he realizes that like she has kind of forgiven him and she's able to move on. And so because that almost frees him.
We kind of done goofed with this scene because I don't know if you remember. You thought the long shot was the close-up. So when we were shooting this long shot, you were able to cry on cue, and you had a tear going down. But then, like, you couldn't get any more out because you thought that was the close-up.
Because it was like I was so happy, and I was like, all right. And you're like, well, that was just a wide. And I was like, and then this is the one where it's finally... And I wanted the audience to wonder, is he calling Lily?
Yeah, and a lot of people in the comments said they thought... And that was something I actually never thought of, because I didn't know that, so I never assumed anybody would think he's calling Lily. That was episode 9. Sort of the biggest episode.
That one to me feels the closest so far of like, oh, that was like an episode of a show.
The most locations, the most characters, definitely the most involved. We've only actually ever shot on a weekend. And for this one, this was our only episode, including 10. We didn't need to do it for 10. This was our only episode we needed to shoot on 2 weekends.
Yeah.
Because it was way too much to shoot. So we shot it in 4 days instead of 2 days.
4 days, maybe $500 of budget.
Now on to our favorite.
Definitely.
By far.
Episode 10.
Episode 10. So the therapist's office was indeed not a therapist's office.
Which it doesn't necessarily need to be.
No, but it was the condo complex for my mom. And the hallway is that hallway. But we thought it sort of looked like a therapist's waiting room hallway. You know?
Honestly, a lot of therapists do sessions
they
just
do in
their apartment. Yeah. I wrote this episode before I ever actually went to therapy. And then I went to therapy around the same time that we were shooting this episode, which I had never done before. And it was weird how like stuff sort of changed and I learned and then also got some things right because I interviewed people who had been to therapies.
I went to therapy as a kid, so you were talking to me.
It's interesting looking back on this now because this episode was definitely the most important one to me because it's the first step really of like helping better yourself when you've been in such a dark place and you can't get past it.
So we knew we needed to get a baller actress for the therapist. We wanted it to be a woman. We wanted a woman therapist.
Old woman. That's what we wanted.
But Glenda was actually one of my family friends, and she's a fantastic actress.
She was exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, because we Skyped with her, and it was like, oh, she...
Yeah, done
deal.
You're hired.
Done deal right there.
You got the guy... What? I mixed up gig and job.
We didn't know how we were going to shoot.
How do we make this interesting?
Interestingly, in a room. We wanted to break up each segment of the episode with different styles of shots. Yeah. So this is the first segment. So it's just the basic over the shoulders. This is his second segment. Then it
starts varying a bit. Because originally the episode was just going to be one long therapy session. But then I realized you wouldn't actually accomplish really anything that much in your first session. So to make it more believable, it stretched to over the course of several therapy sessions. And with each therapy session, we were like, oh, we could have these cool transition shots where it's like, all of a sudden, whoa, they're in different clothes. It's nighttime now.
So that spices it up. Where it's like, ooh, different clothes,
and
different
then
lighting.
different styles with each session. He's acting a little different. This first one, he's just kind of nervous and quiet. Second one, he's a little bit more laid back. Then the third one, he's like energized. Fourth one, he's depressed. And it's all changing. So then we change it up with the different styles of how we're filming it. Some are more energetic than others. Like episode 3, we're just following him as he's walking around and stuff. So that was the key of making this one scene basically work as a 27-minute episode.
That made it more interesting for us too, because it was always like, what style should we make this one? What wacky shots should we make this one? And we were able to do a little bit some wacky shots here and there that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And we wanted to point this out, where the first thought he had when he met the girl was, I should ask her out, which is like, I wrote that in the original script just because it was funny. But then, when
that's
you think
like
about
low-key
it,
what you think.
Yeah, it is. But it's also like objectively that is like, a weird thing to think about.
That's like weird.
You don't know her.
Like,
so we just wanted to,
Yeah, there was a lot of that where it was like looking back on the series, because as we were making the episodes, even like by the time we were doing episode 7, we were like, oh, we should have done this different episode 5 for writing wise or whatever. And so by episode 10, there was so much of that where it's like, we've grown, the series has grown, we can look back on things and show different meanings behind it and explore it.
Just remembered that your cast is made up of a long sock that we made holes in. From certain shots, you can see the sock outline. You can see the 3 red lines right there of the sock.
Because the sock itself is a YouTube sock.
Yeah.
Which my film teacher in high school gave me, Miss Dupuy. And I ended up using it for the cast. Didn't we almost shoot this scene and I didn't have the cast on? And then I realized I needed the cast on. We made that mistake at some point.
shot half of the scene without the cast. We shot half of this scene with no cast on, no cap. and we were like, we just have to just reshoot the entire thing and be behind schedule for a little bit.
Yep. And what was fun was breaking up these sections really helped, because also we would move the characters in different spots almost every time. They'd be,
because that we didn't want them just sitting in the same space as well.
No.
Also,
kind of chilling.
He's now eating as well.
It's he's eating. He's opening up a bit.
We want him be trying to do stuff where it's like they're not just sitting. He's grabbing something. He's eating.
And it's a natural progression of how therapy actually kind of happens, where the first time you're just going to be kind of quiet and nervous, but then assuming this is maybe the second or third time, it's almost like kind of fun, where it's like, whew, I can finally just talk about this stuff and not be judged, and I can just be open about it finally.
Why do you think your mom drinks so much?
I don't know. I love this shit because also I'm wearing the dumbest outfit.
Yeah, we wanted, because it was like, what should he be wearing for this? And I was like, all right, Mickey shirt and jorts.
And I'm laying down
with that colorful ass thing.
Toy.
We did shoot this entire episode within the span of 2 days.
Yeah.
So we basically had to plan
all the daytime stuff here, nighttime stuff here.
Yeah, all of the outfits, all of that, and just make it look like it was a bunch of different days. Which color correction really helps, because it was like, I think this was shot right after we shot the first session.
Yeah.
But we colored this blue, and we colored that one yellow, and it looks like 2 different days.
Oh, yeah.
This was a tough scene to shoot. This was actually this was the hardest scene to shoot, surprisingly, because it was a question of when do we want the camera on their faces, and when do we want the camera to follow their hands for the chessboard. So, and like, also, you guys had to be playing chess.
Originally we were just going to be playing chess, but that didn't work, so we had to plan out what we were moving and where we were moving it. And I'm pretty sure if you look at it, we're not playing chess at all. We're just, like, BSing it.
I got mugged.
Hurry up, don't mix me up.
All of these weird, like, jittery things were inspired by Saw. I literally watched scenes from Saw, and I was like, how do they do this? And if you analyze it, the editing saves those movies.
It is literally, they will edit like 20 different shots together in the span of like 5 seconds.
All kinds of wacky things where you're like, what? How did they like create that style? Like, so like, there's one time where it's like on a clock, and it goes like, and like one of the shots is the clock on purpose out of focus. And it looks like they did that in camera. So it's like a little stuff like that where I was like, all right, that's how I'm going to have these like actual messed up flashbacks.
We were bored of the normal flashbacks, and it was like, we need to spice it up. So you edited it almost like a horror movie.
Yeah, like a thriller. Like this entire scene is a thriller, basically, because it's diving into dark stuff. And it's also really scary, like the way Sam's reacting, because he says like, yeah, I faked being suicidal. It was awesome. And someone posted a comment about that, and it's like,
Yeah, and Sam is like just being very standoffish.
Now we're at Dutch angle because it's getting dark.
right now.
This whole thing's been nothing but a goddamn fucking waste of time.
We only did that once because we were yelling in an apartment complex.
We were
with,
like,
we
can't yell in like all of these curse words and stuff. So it's like, this is a one take wonder.
Yep.
Come on, here we go.
Then nailed it. I loved it. I anytime I get to be mad and yell, love it. I love it.
Yeah, you're so used to doing that.
Yeah,
you can just
what's up, guys? Yeah, I'm Sam. Hi.
Yeah.
Okay. Shut up.
Yeah, like, Chris, just be yourself. Ready to go.
Shut up.
So this was like the time where it was all right. We need to have Chris cry on cue.
Oh yeah,
and it was like
everything built to this. Where I was like, if I don't cry during this scene, I will hate myself.
And it was like Spencer, go in the other room and
no
don't
joking
talk,
around.
No joking.
Everyone shut up.
Everybody's quiet on set right now, and we're just gonna have Chris just be sad for like 5 minutes before we start shooting.
Something I wanted to bring up, the line about there is no medication to fix anxiety.
There is no medication to fix anxiety.
Technically, that's not true, and that's something I wish we could have changed because I didn't really know. Technically, there is no cure-all, end-all. Just like, oh, my anxiety is cured. Like, there's just medication that can help some
also,
people.
You don't know if you will mesh with the medication well as well, you know?
Exactly.
Like,
not one
medications
medication helps everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be different. Also, fun thing of once we get to these specific flashbacks, and then especially later on, right before he cries, so not only is the inspired by Saw, but it's also inspired by Time Zero, the episode from BoJack Horseman.
Yes. Yeah.
Where it's his mom who has flashbacks of her mom because her mom, something bad happened, so it would be like this demonic like thing, like... And it was like, oh, snap. And I loved that effect. And I immediately knew, I was like, that's going to be in this episode too. So this specific scene, it's basically the message of the whole show. And to me, like the most powerful sort of moment where even though they're at conflict with each other technically and they're bouncing back and forth and arguing, it's someone just trying to help him and show him that despite the fact that all these bad things have happened, he feels like he can't change and he's just doomed to have this cycle over and over again. He has been making these changes. And it's like someone has to just like finally fight you to like say, no, you are changing. You are doing well. And that to me is like, that's just powerful. And I get choked up every time I see that.
Which is also an interesting thing because I think a lot of people would think like a long-term relationship when it breaks up is just a waste of time.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay.
But I think you have to look at it in terms of all of the lessons you learned.
You're not going to find the one. And just because you didn't find the one doesn't mean... Because chances are you're not going to find the one until you become the version of you that the one would want. And that person becomes a version that becomes the one that you would want.
Yeah. And we, of course, didn't plan for the what did you really feel? Because I wrote that episode 1, didn't think it was going to get to 10 episodes, just wrote that for fun. And then we were like, no, we should like answer that question. That was the very beginning. What did he feel? And we were thinking about that for a while.
Yeah.
Happiness, all of that. And it was
peace,
like, peace was one of the main ones. But then it was like, no,
freedom.
In the end, it was like closure. It was everything is as it should. Everything ended as it should. He doesn't need to worry anymore. That felt like the most... organic.
Yeah, which I would argue that is part of the reason why TV shows struggle to end successfully. Because a movie is like a shorter, simple thing, and it's like, unless you're doing like a slice of life thing, you can have stories end in a closure mode. But in real life, you very rarely get closure.
You never get the closure.
Things just suddenly end, and suddenly someone is gone forever or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's like
his dream, he got the closure.
Yeah, and this is about real life. So with that, it was like, you know what? Like, that's his happy ending. Like, sure, the happy ending is, you know, married, kids, whatever. But like, really, it's just a feeling of closure that you've accomplished everything you set out to do, and you don't feel like you're missing something. And that's the irony of this whole episode, is that it's a finale, and technically nothing happens except he lets go of Lily. But in terms of him as a person, even though, you know, his dad is still kind of messed up, his mom is still messed up, he still needs to apologize to Mr. Mandel, there's so much that Sam still needs to do. You know, he's not over anxiety in the slightest. He's only begun his journey. But he has taken those initial steps, and he now really knows what he actually wants. And so even though there is no real closure with this episode, he believes that he has closure, and so we, the audience, feel closure.
One of the ending ideas we had, so we filmed basically when she says, I want to do an exercise with you, it cuts to him talking to little Sam.
Yeah, and
we
the
have that.
exercise is, if your younger self was here right now, what would you say?
Yeah, so we filmed that.
Yeah,
and it was really good.
It was a really good scene.
And it was but it just...
It didn't carry the weight that it needed to, because as we were watching and editing the episode, his speech here was really sort of that closure
exactly,
feeling. Like,
exactly.
That was like, oh, we've reached the end of this therapy now. And then it's like, now we have another 3-minute scene where he's giving this speech. And again, it just kind of felt a little too much towards a melodramatic territory.
We wanted people to get emotional when he was talking to little Sam, but we also wanted people to get emotional with this specific scene, and we knew they would get emotional with this scene, so the little Sam scene just wouldn't have really worked. No. So we have that scene, and we have it edited.
And it sucks. We always end up cutting scenes with Zach in them.
And he's just
I feel so bad because he's great, and I love working with him.
Yeah, it didn't fully... It just
didn't mesh well. And the other thing is, we had this whole moment where they stand up and hug, and then Sam comes back out, and Daniel's there, and they get the sort of closure thing. Cut it out. We just wanted to instantly cut to this.
We cut all of it.
We knew we were cutting Zach's scene out, and then it was like, kind of doesn't make sense for the hug as melodramatic. Just cut to the happy place. The other thing is, we had to reshoot this scene. Hella reshoot this scene.
We
shot this scene during episode
6. We originally shot this scene for episode 6. I shot it. It was you two. It didn't look as good.
Nope.
Didn't sound as good.
Nope. The messaging
the right message.
Completely different. In that one, he's crying the whole time, and it's sad, and it's just like, no.
So this is a way better.
Because that one, the original version was just too sad and too ending on a down note.
He's crying, and he's like,
the original version was like, I'm sorry, but I have to let you go.
And this one's like,
this one's just like, bruh, it's time. This was also inspired, weird how I get my inspiration, from the last episode of season 9 of Red vs. Blue, a Halo Machinima series on YouTube from Rooster Teeth. If anyone knows that, they totally get where I got my inspiration.
And that's it.
Boom.
That is
and then we have a little message at the end saying thank you for watching. Just sort of give the idea.
We wanted
some people were like, when's the next episode? I'm like, come on, that was the finale. Obviously it was the finale.
Because a couple people after the end of 6 asked, is that the finale? And this was like, for sure, this is the finale.
Yeah, because by this point, we knew we weren't going to make more episodes. By this point, we knew we had the complete package. It's time to start pitching this as a full-blown show.
Yeah.
That's
the last of Panic for now. Last Panic commentary for now.
Watching the series was very interesting because we started this a few months ago. And even now, anytime I rewatch episodes, I find something new that, something new I wish we could have done, or I've learned more about anxiety and depression and whatnot. And it's just cool to see the growth of the series as we went along, and
it's pretty wacky.
Sort of just reflecting on everything that we went through, because this was several years of our lives, and this entire series completely changed me as a person. It's definitely a big reason why I'm aware of things that I have and the way I've been for so long, and just kind of facing realities about myself that I never really knew.
Pretty interesting.
Would you like to add to that, Keaton?
I mean, I was just behind the camera for all of the episodes, so I was just chilling, how.
But I mean, you began the show. You came up with the original idea, obviously, people can kind of see where I'm inspired by Sam, or I'm similar to Sam in certain ways.
Yeah, but it wasn't Chris coming up with an idea about a character like him.
Mm-hmm.
It was me asking Chris to act, and then even the first character wasn't really like Chris. He was way too anxious, and then over the course of him growing, he kind of took on more personality traits that you have.
Yeah.
And,
it was almost for me, I was writing Sam to try and get him to slowly turn more into me.
Yeah, sort of.
And so with each episode, I added in more of me into it. Episode 5 was the first time where I was I'm going to dial back just the nervous, jittery mess of Sam and add a little bit more personality. In episode 6, I was I'm going to be a chill homeboy. And just be cool. And then episode 10 was the most fun because I got to be every version of Sam.
Yeah.
From nervous, little scared Sam, to depressed Sam, to angry Sam, to chillaxing Sam, to introspective, more mature Sam. And then the outfits would change with that as well.
That's it. This is the last of the commentary. Keep your eyes peeled for more Panic news coming soon. We are still actively trying to get the show picked
up.
We
are making progress. Can't detail too much about it, but there
may be some news soon, so we'll see what happens.
Let's hope. We have story ideas for so much more.
So we'll see. Y'all better be watching it if it gets picked up too. Don't
share this show. If you want to see this show get picked up, share it with everyone that you know.
Yeah.
If you know someone who maybe could learn something from this series,
that would help a lot.
Thank you for watching.
And as always,
stay frosty.